if it's a client of mine, we know a lot about them. We know what their goals are. We know what their aspirations are. We know their struggles. We know the situation that they're in, and we're going to advise them the best we can to help them out and help them be successful.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the latest edition of FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of FranCoach and your podcast host. Today, we are going to be joined by a guest not in franchising. That may possibly be a first, but we're going to talk about something when people think about owning a franchise and leaving that job. The fear that is around there is, of course, oh my gosh, I got to leave the paycheck that is essentially like crack chaining me to my awful job. But there's also the fear of leaving a job about benefits, part of which in kind of a typical benefit package is some sort of retirement or 401k. So how does it work with this when you are an entrepreneur? What are some of the benefits of being in control over that? What are some of the concerns? And how do you find somebody to properly advise you on that transition? Our guest today is an expert in this industry, has done it for over a decade, working with hundreds and hundreds of clients, and disclaimer time, including me. So I am incredibly excited to have this person on as our guest and to touch on this topic. And frankly, folks, I'm a little embarrassed and apologize to you for not having covered this really crucial thing sooner. So that's who's coming up. A quick reminder who we are, FranCoach. We are the premier franchise consulting firm. Our number one goal never, ever, 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 ever has anything to do with selling you anything. It is all about getting you properly educated on what franchise ownership is all about so you can determine if you should own one. If so, we're going to help you find your absolute best fit. There is not a just best fit for everybody. This is the most individualized and personalized thing you're ever going to do. And we're going to help you make sure you understand all of it. So that is us. Now let's get to our guest. Luke, my friend, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, well, see how you feel about it in 30 minutes when I'm done grilling you with stuff. So,
okay.
We've got a lot to talk about because this is really a topic we've not touched on this podcast, is the ways in which, investments, retirements, all those things as an entrepreneur, we kind of mostly get it when we're an employee, but how does that work as a business owner? But I always like hearing stories, and I've known you for a long time. I don't know this story. So give us a little scoop on Luke, and how did you even kind of get yourself to starting with Edward Jones?
Yeah, great. That's a great story. Great question. Thinking about the context of this podcast, I think it fits right into the story of most listeners that you have. I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma. I went to college. I got a degree in finance, and I was taking my route that I was determined to take was the corporate finance route. And I went through the schooling. I finished my first year in the finance program, and I got an internship at a large Fortune 500 company in their accounting department. And that was one of the most impactful summers of my life, because I think most internships, they're really great no matter what happens. You either leave it and you know exactly what you want to do, or you leave it and know exactly what you don't want to do.
Right.
And that was me, the latter. I left that knowing exactly what I did not want to do. I went back to school without a plan, and I had an investment class, and I loved it. From there, I started to explore my options, and I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. I wanted to just get into a community, set my roots, and meet people and build something. And I figured the best time to do it would be, when I didn't know any better. So I got an interview with Edward Jones, and I had didn't know anything about Edward Jones, to be honest with you. And in preparing for that initial phone interview, I did some research, got on LinkedIn to see who I knew that might be employed by Edward Jones. And lo and behold, my small town in Oklahoma had several people that I knew pretty well. I just had no idea what they did. So I made some phone calls and realized, this could be exactly what I'm looking for. And a lot of it is that entrepreneurial opportunity and dream, the ability to have some autonomy, to have what I call with my clients return on life, and a lot of that has to do with your time, winning back some of your time. So, but it was, like any startup, that's what I was in. I had no contacts, no prospective clients. So my journey began just very grassroots, in the community, getting to know as many people as I could. So,
and for those that don't know, Edward Jones, you're not like, this isn't a job where you're an employee. It's not exactly a franchise, but it's probably pretty similar into this is your time, your money, starting your business kind of under their brand, correct?
Yeah. So the nice thing about Edward Jones and me being a newly, graduated college, newly a college graduate, I didn't have any resources. So Edward Jones, it's a partnership. So they've really invested in me and took a chance on me to help me grow something. Now, and I think that's something pretty similar. I think a lot of franchises, for me, what I benefited from was that brand, that backing, a company that's been around for over 100 years with a great reputation. That helped me a lot as a, 20-something-year-old getting started in a community. So, I owe that opportunity to Edward Jones, and I'm very grateful for that. I am, as far as my employment, I am an employee. Now I'm a partner, but that's
gotcha.
Okay. They allow
I asked
us to
that,
be
and I wasn't quite sure how that worked, right? But you're building kind of, again, your business as big as you want, or I'm sure not as small as you want. They'd probably step in and say something at some point if you weren't doing anything, right? But okay. But that whole brand component, training, support, all of those things are really key for you, right?
Yeah, amazing training, and I didn't have to reinvent the wheel, right? A lot of people had already gone before me and had figured something out. So I relied, even though it was scary, I relied on what had worked for other people and I'm in the business of managing risk. And for me, that was a big risk mitigator that I could see like a pattern of success, and all I needed to do was emulate that. And early on, that's what I had to hold on to. I didn't want to fail. Yeah. So it was important for me to stick to a plan that worked for somebody else at the beginning.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it only been around for 100 years, so I'm not sure they've proven it quite yet, right? So at that point. So what was it about? You have this internship and you come out of there and go, oh, heck no. But then you saw kind of that day in a life for Edward Jones. What was it in there that you saw for you that was like, oh, this is, because it's scary at the beginning, but you're trusting the plan. But somewhere in there, you saw yourself being able to do the things that were laid out in the plan. Like, what was it in there? You're like, oh yeah, I can get up and do this, versus like what that internship was.
You know what? I think that's a great question. I think that the motivation was that internship. Fear is not the best motivator long-term, but it was a really good one for like 3 to 5 years.
Right.
Because I knew that I could provide for my family. I just wanted control on how I did that. Yeah. And Edward Jones to me was that avenue to not only, it was for me, but it was also the impact I can have for clients on a daily basis, to get it into a good financial position to do the same for their family. Yeah. So I think, does that answer your question there with?
Yeah. Well, it's hard at the beginning, right? I know you were, probably literally and figuratively pounding the pavements and getting the word out. And how long have you been doing it now?
Going on my 11th year. Yeah.
So Okay, let's go back in the Wayback Machine here, my friend. So when I first walked into your office, you'd been at this maybe like a year or so, and so you were faking it really well at that point. So that I was willing to transfer my tens of dollars over to you and your trust. But that also goes back to, again, the training and the support of, like, you're not creating the wheel. It is you're executing the plan. So, well done, Luke. Well done, Edward Jones, on the training and all of that. But again, I'm sure that gave you the confidence early on to, like, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be saying or how to do this, but I am trusting that, again, this is a brand that's been around literally for a century, right? Yeah. Had to make that so much easier for you in those situations, right?
Well, yeah, I think seeing a pattern of success is important. And it, like I said before, it eliminates, it starts to reduce some of the risk that somebody is going to take. And in this case, it was me. Like, I could look just within the city that I was living in and see examples of successful people that were doing what I was about to do. And that was reassuring.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's, a lot of with franchise ownership, I think that's a big part of it. You're tapping into a network that has proven to be successful.
Yep. Correct. And having a network of people to help you and support you, whether it's the people literally training you and overseeing you, so to speak, or other people out there doing the same thing, right? Yeah. Like, you're not the only person out there having those conversations. So, again, that always, and again, for you, I'm sure, and for franchise owners as well. In fact, I think we don't ever talk about it enough in franchising, how much other owners in your system can be incredibly valuable resources for you, because there's nobody out there that understands what you're going through more than somebody else doing the same thing. Yeah. And I'm sure for you, you're getting started with this, and there's always those people in your life, friends, family, whatever, like, what the heck are you doing? Right? Like, why are you doing that? And there's always those other people that are going to provide doubt. To have that whole support system of people who've been there, done it, are doing it is huge, right? So, cool. I love that. I want to actually one more thing, because as you were getting started with this and some of the fear things, what was, if you can kind of think back, like something that was, like, oh my gosh, this is a big hurdle early on, or something that you really struggled with. That's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get past this? Can you think, I know it's been like 11 years now, but can you think back to the beginning of, like, oh crap, this was really harder than I thought, or this was something that was a challenge that I wasn't even expecting?
That's a good question. Yeah. There's a lot of things, I think maybe not a specific thing, but just the amount of uncontrollables that you deal with as an entrepreneur is something that feels insurmountable sometimes. And I have a great coach, and they train to that, focusing on what you control, making sure you have a plan for the next day before the next day comes, so that you can be very productive. And those things are very much controllables. They're things that we control. They're not outcomes. They're not results. They're process. And I've been a practitioner trying to get my mind around that and practice that regularly, where I'm focused more on process than results to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So early on, that's all I could do, because you have, as a business owner, your wins feel few and far between. So you have to find a way to feel good about the work that you're doing on a daily basis, not just when those results come in. So I think that's the dilemma of every entrepreneur is continuing to move forward.
Yeah. And I think when you've got that, it's really hard when you're out there all by yourself with the franchise system too, right? There's the metrics, there's the support, and you have to just, even if it was like, gosh, I just have to have one conversation today. I don't have to make $1 million. I need somebody new to talk to, right? Or I need to get this one little thing accomplished. And I know after, like, you and I have been in this journey about the same amount of time. It's like, sometimes I still have to remember like those little wins, and for newer people on our team, like, hey, did you do this small little metric? Did you do that this week? Yes. Yeah, but I didn't. Like, you did that one little thing. Like, it will build, it will get there. Right. And so,
absolutely.
So no, I love that. And so, kind of a big part of what you're doing, you talk about kind of mitigating risk and the overall financial planning in a lot of different ways. And so people that are out there thinking about maybe becoming a franchise owner, most of them have, good old W-2 jobs, usually ones that they don't love all that much. And there's the fear of one stepping away from the paycheck, but they're like, gosh, I've got this 401k and I money goes into there every 2 weeks or every month. I'm going to lose that, or I'm going to lose access to it, or whatever. Right. And so I'm going to start with kind of talking through, I've got a job, I'm leaving my job to start this franchise, but here's my 401k. What are some of the options that people have out there for that to just, I think what they do with it, I don't want to keep it in the old employer, but talk through some of the things that people can do for that to really have much more control over what that looks like.
Yeah, and I think great question, because that is a concern. I think anytime you're looking to go out on your own and start something, there's a lot of maybe fears of what you might be giving up. And that's normal. It's, and it definitely is going to be scary. You're used to, health benefits, you're used to, built-in disability benefits, you're used to the 401k or some sort of saving mechanism that your employer is providing, maybe even stock options with a company. So there are options, and really you have the ability as a business owner to replicate most of those things. It's just, instead of it being deducted out of your paycheck by your employer, you are the person that's kind of working all those mechanisms to get to the same result. So, with those old plan, maybe like the 401k you're leaving behind, there are, you have options. You potentially can leave it there. If you don't need the money, you can move it into an IRA. Sometimes it can be used to fund, a startup. It can be, so there are options out there. And with clients, as I'm helping them, whether it's a startup, they want to start a new venture, buy real estate, what have you, it's important to just understand what you're starting with and going from there to figure out what the best options are to make that transition and to, fund that new venture or buy that real estate. But we have to know what the current landscape is of the client, and then we can go towards finding all of those different, looking at all the different alternative options.
Yeah, it's in some ways it's part of I think fear is usually fear of the unknown, right? And when you get a job, like, you're not out there shopping what's the best 401k plan for you. The company's like, no, we got this, and this is what you get, and maybe we contribute to it a little bit. And maybe you get to choose how much you contribute, right? But it's usually a small amount, and that's it. And like going through this, whatever it was, 10, 11 years ago, here was my 401k from a prior employer. It was just sitting there. It was not doing nothing, but there was nothing being added to it. Is being able to take that and then now kind of put that into a new account was like also a little scary, because you're like, how the heck, like, I could have never in a million years figured out how to do that myself. But then now it gave me the control over how little, how much I want to put in there, how aggressive I want to be, how conservative I want to be, and make those changes over time. Right. And so I think that entrepreneur piece is, it's scary because you've never done it before and you don't know how. There's also people out there like Luke and Edward Jones that will help you do that. But it's that overall control over how, like, just like you are with anything, with the business, you're in control over how hard you work, how much money you make, how big it grows, when you're comfortable and it stays right there. but having that overall, again, the fear of the unknown of it, but you've got so much more control over your money and how you're investing when you're not an employee versus having that own business, right? And so I'm sure there's no way I was the only person that you've ever talked to that's just completely confused and overwhelmed by all of that. But it's really kind of like we do with people. There's not a like, oh, you want to own a franchise, you want to make this much money, start this one, right? It's getting to know that person and kind of what their goals are. And I'm guessing that kind of that advisor piece for you guys is like things are going to change over time. Money they're putting in, what they're trying to get out of it, all of that's probably pretty consistent of how that changes over time, right?
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. Like a plan is never set in stone. We're forecasting, and that forecast always changes. To that point, I think when you do move from a W-2 employee to an entrepreneur or franchise owner, what you become is more reliant on a team around you, a CPA, and a business attorney, making sure, financial advisor, making sure that all of these different things that now you have more control over are working for you. And that's a good way to just, again, make good decisions as you're moving forward. But yeah, absolutely. You do get more options. Because you're no longer that W-2 employee, you're a business owner. And a CPA is one that can really spell out, what those options, how that impacts you from a tax perspective. I'm working with a CPA to help, show you how you can continue to, save as you go. Right.
Or if it's a CPA like mine, where she bullies me into always max contributions for everything. So, but it's the and I say that with love, and I am very fortunate for you talk about the team, not just our team at FranCoach, but me as an entrepreneur of having literally one of my best friends from college is my CPA. But I know you guys probably talk more behind my back than I talk to either of you individually to make sure everything is really aligned. And again, you go back to being an employee, like you have those things and it's easy, but you have zero control over or I shouldn't say zero, but very, very little control over the direction that your money is going, the investments you're making, how much or how little you are doing. So yes, it can be frightening with that. But there's also other things, and you think of it like a 401k or an IRA, but there's also a lot of other ways people can kind of invest their money. And again, as an entrepreneur, back to that dreaded C word, you're in control over that. Right. And so those are things that of all your kind of business owner clients, you're helping them kind of analyze what's best, what they want out. And yes, if you want your traditional 401k, if it keeps you comfortable, and neither of us are CPAs, I can barely spell CPA, but there are a lot of tax advantages as an entrepreneur for having that, right? And I think mine is I'm going to mess this up and you're going to get mad at me, but there's a 401k and an IRA that are actually specific kind of designed for entrepreneurs, right? So again, adding to that layer of control, but there's a lot of other different things that you can do from an investment standpoint as an entrepreneur, besides just, hey, let me stick this in my bank account and get 0.000001 interest rate on that. All part of kind of the advising and things that you're able to help entrepreneurs understand, correct?
Absolutely. And I think it really boils down to, especially with business owners, helping business owners understand what money they need to operate their business, working operating capital, putting that aside, there should be an agreed upon amount there that they can continue to, fund the engine that's driving everything. But then you get into, intermediate term money, maybe money that you might need a year to 3 years down the road. And then there's, there's money that you need that can be a little bit more long term. So really helping the business owner figure out and understand that every dollar you have should have a job. It doesn't need to be sitting idle. We need to have intention with what we're doing. And that's really high level what we try to accomplish with business owners is helping them be more intentional with the money they have, so that it can work for them. And so that, they're taking advantage of what they can.
Yeah. And it's possible I was just so ignorant of all of this stuff when I was an employee and all of those years. But the amount of things that I've learned over the last decade or so, and just like you said, you're how do you say that again? Because I really like your every dollar has a job.
Yeah, every dollar has a job.
I love that, and it just literally as you were saying that, I'm like, oh, you know what? We probably need to talk when we're done recording on some stuff to make sure we're always doing the right thing. But so I love that comment.
Would you say, just really quick, would you say, because I have a lot of people are going to retire comfortably as employees in their business. Would you say a lot of the listeners here, they're listening to, because they're looking for something more other than just that comfortable, path forward. They're going to, there's a likelihood that they're on track, to have a decent retirement, at the end of the road, but they're not really, they want to do something different.
I think there's a couple buckets. There's one of the people that are like, there's no way I'm going to have enough to retire. Right. And especially when you think of like, quote, retiring at 65, and then you've got another 20 years of your life, maybe to fund, at whatever bougie lifestyle you've gotten yourself used to, with that. So that's frightening. Right. And then you think, from a franchise owner standpoint, if you get to, quote, retirement year of 65 and you don't want to work anymore, well, then you've got the asset of selling your business in addition to how you've been running, like kind of managing your money. But you think of like having a job, right? And you're like, you're 65. Well, I don't want to retire fully. I still want to stay active. I just don't want to be full time, right? Like walk into your boss's office and say this. Okay, there, boss. I want to start working about 15 hours a week, right? Some of that's going to be remote. I'm going to come in here once in a while, but I want you to pay me the exact same. Okay. And see how fast he or she's on the phone calling security to get you a box and escorting your ass out of there. Right. But as an owner, you can do that exact thing. Like, hey, I've got all the people in place. The business has been running for a while. I'm going to back off a little bit. I still like the money this business is kicking off. I still like being active somewhat. I'm still building the equity of that. And the money I'm spending off this business is also now getting invested as well, right? So it gives them that opportunity. Sometimes it's a straight exit strategy to build, but that secondary revenue I want to keep my job and have the business is possible. But I think there's a lot of people we talk to. Part of this is they don't feel, maybe they haven't been working with you. They're not in good enough position to go, yep, 65, I'm hanging them up and I am in great shape to live however I want for as long as I live. I don't talk to a lot of people like that out there. And so this is the way to, again, have more control over that.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because, I find too that a lot of people don't want to stop working. Maybe they're financially in a place they can stop working, but they're looking at 20 plus years in retirement. Like, you know what? Like maybe I don't want to work at the pace that I've been working at, but I'd still like to have somewhere to go to feel impactful and have purpose.
Yeah. I think the older I get, and Danielle and I talk about this all the time, is you start seeing people who do retire and the decline in them physically and mentally is drastic, right? And again, as I get older, I'm like, oh, heck no, man. I'm going to keep doing something. Fortunately, I've got a business that lets me sit on my butt and talk on the phone and make money, right? So it's a little, and I could do anywhere, but it is, I think there's more and more of that fear. And I think this is a little bit of social media hype buzz of, all the boomers and their businesses and they're selling off and you can come in and do that. Like, okay, right. But I think we're also getting an older, it's weird. We get a lot of younger clients, like literally in their 20s. Like I've got somebody that's 21 right now looking at a franchise. And then we'll get the ones that are like mid 50s and sometimes even a little bit later that are like, they're looking at the retirement calculator thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, is in the green or where is it? And they're like, I'm in trouble. And there's only so much more money I'm going to make out of this job for as long as I get to keep it. I need an additional revenue stream to bump that up and something that I can keep doing, because like we got a couple of people on our team right now working with clients that are in the 60s that been laid off. Right. And now job search is bad enough. Try doing that when you're in your 60s. Right. And you're used to making a level of income that now that employer can find the 30-year-old version of you that's going to take way less and work longer. Right. And so it's I think that age discrimination in the hiring process, people can pretend like HR people are going to say it doesn't exist, but that's crap. It does. And so this is another alternative for them to work longer, but work the way in which they want to work. Right. So
maybe take more control of their options. If they want to work longer, they now have control to do that.
Yes. You got it. 100%. I want to throw one other thing at you, that comes up often with people. One of the ways in which people can fund a franchise is actually kind of through the retirement. It's called the ROBS, Rollover for Business Startup. And I will tell you that when we talk to a client that is saying to me, I'm going to talk to my financial advisor about that. You're my boy, Blue. I love you to death. You've been great for me, but I'm telling you, I am like, financial advisor and the ROBS, right? It's like there's a hostage negotiation going on with this. And you're the one person I've talked to over the years that sees this from your shoes as one, and I don't want to take the words out of your mouth because I've heard you say this, but like understands that what's important is the person and not you, right? And so thank you for that. But also understanding that could maybe there's some money that comes out to different cause, but that relationship allows you to still build all those investing things. So maybe you've had some people that have looked at this in the past. Talk about like if somebody came to you like, Luke, I want to do this ROBS thing to start a franchise. What would be some of the things that were on your mind that you'd want to chat with that person about?
Yeah, and I think that's really, it's about understanding where the client is coming from. And I take a lot of pride in knowing who my clients are and what their goals are. And, I want to make sure that they're getting the information they need to make the best decision possible in their situation. And so we're going to go through, and if it's a client of mine, we know a lot about them. We know what their goals are. We know what their aspirations are. We know their struggles. We know the situation that they're in, and we're going to advise them the best we can, to help them out and help them be successful. And I think that's what it comes down to. And the more and more I do this, the more and more I talk to clients about return on life, finding joy and happiness. Yeah. The money is important because I think it allows you to do a lot of things, but I've talked to a lot of, clients, a lot of business owners who, maybe they have the money, but they're missing, something. Yeah. So to me, talking to a client about starting a business, I'm passionate about business ownership. I'm passionate about, real estate. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. So it is important to me to talk to those clients about, what their options are, what the risks are, what the opportunity is. Because at the end of the day, we are trying to help solve an income for them. When they can no longer work in their business, or, if they're lucky enough to be able to, or if they put the work in enough to be able to kind of step away and have, maybe they've hired themselves out of their job, right? They're running their franchise. They've hired themselves out of all the jobs that they used to occupy in their early years running it. And they can just be retired, kind of be a passive owner. That's the goal. So walking through, thinking about the end from the beginning, and then helping them visualize what that's going to be, and really putting them in a position to make really good decisions with their money, given the different aspects. I think when we're talking about this specific situation, we have tools that help them forecast, help them look at what this is going to look like long term. And it does, when you're pulling money out of any type of savings, not just a 401k or IRA, and investing it in a business, you're really investing in yourself.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you're doing. And you need to make good on that, and
yeah.
I think the risks, the risks are, like any other investment, there's risks in every investment that we do. There's trade-offs. So understanding what those trade-offs are before you make a decision is vital.
Right. There's a risk in not doing it as well.
Yeah. And I think, if you have a CPA, those individuals come into the conversation, taxes, we look at all those angles to make sure that the client is getting all the information to make a decision that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I love it. And you said something right at the beginning, is like asking questions, getting to know that person. And I think anybody in that situation, and you're talking to your financial advisor, you're talking to somebody else besides me about looking at franchises, which, first of all, shame on you. But if they're telling you what to do versus asking you questions about you and why you want to do that, you are talking to the wrong person. And I am well aware that if there was asking questions was an Olympic sport, I am like a podium level asker of questions. You are one of the few people that I'm you're on the podium there with me from that standpoint. And again, because it's it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about that person. Right. And so it's probably why you and I are still working together and have become friends over the years, is because of that. There's always that genuine interest in me, and asking the questions and understanding that. So that's why I really want to, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I think whatever you're looking at, what's investment, if it's franchising, I would say this all the time. If somebody's out there telling you this is the best franchise and that's the hottest industry or whatever, they either don't know what the hell they're talking about, or they are trying to sell you something. And it's about them and not about you. So, super cool. I appreciate all of that. And for you coming on today, man, I appreciate you sharing all of this. And I can't believe it's taken me 260 some episodes to get you on here. I guess next up is Jen and the CPA conversation, but she scares me more than you scare me, so it's all fine. So,
well, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, and it's been a pleasure being on.
No,
feels like a normal conversation for us, so I appreciate that. You're natural.
I got to ask a few more questions this time than I normally do. So,
yeah.
But Luke, my friend, thank you so much for coming on. Again, Luke Murray, financial advisor with Edward Jones. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
And just once again, I want to thank Luke Murray from Edward Jones for joining us today. And like I said at the outset, I kind of feel like, to all of our loyal listeners, I owe you an apology. This is a topic that comes up often with our clients, of just that overall fear of the unknown, of leaving the job where it's all kind of just been handed to me, whether it was good or bad, and the way it can work for you, and the way it really can work for you to help you grow long-term generational wealth with this. So thanks to Luke for joining us. If you haven't already, and then kind of shame on you, Follow, like, subscribe wherever you get our podcasts, certainly our social media as well. Our YouTube channel, FranCoach For You, our podcast there, our Franchising 360 TV show, which we're about a week away from the first episode of season 2. Oh my gosh, the cliffhangers from season 1 into this have been killing me. Excited for that as well. When you are ready to talk and learn about franchise ownership to see if it is for you, our team is here. We are at francoach.net is where you find all of our team. We are here ready to help you. There's never, ever any fee for our service. So what are you waiting for, man? Reach out today so we can help you create your better tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening. We'll chat with you next week.